So today for you guys, I have a video that I wouldn't always do, but you know, feel like it. So here we go. So I'll be
What do you mean?
We're gonna be there. Firefly.
I'll be discussing The Last of Us Part 2. And by the title of my video, you suggests that will it actually ever come out this year? Now, probably one of my favorite games of all time. If you didn't watch one or two videos I made on it, be sure to check them out. But yeah, so Naughty Dog, they crafted a modern masterpiece with The Last of Us, right? And the studio made itself even better known thanks to its incredible characters and storytelling in this post-apocalyptic tale. So Joel and Ellie, they remain great characters, and they made us laugh.
What did the triangle say to the circle?
What is that?
You're so pointless.
You found another pun book?
They made us cry.
Not her, you know.
What?
Maria told me about Sarah.
Ellie?
And
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel, but I have lost people.
And more crying whilst we ventured across North America. But Joel and Ellie's story will continue in The Last of Us Part 2, but with an older, angrier Ellie. E3 2018 showcased a dark and beautiful story in the making, and our excitement is already at the highest, and we can't wait until there's more going to be revealed. Now, when is The Last of Us Part 2 coming out? The Last of Us Part 2 was revealed with a teaser trailer at PlayStation Experience 2016, PSX 2016, whatever you want to say, and Naughty Dog expressed during that time after the reveal that the game was very, very early in development, so it would have been at that time a while till we get our hands on it. But in a recent interview with an Argentinian radio station, The Last of Us Part 2 composer Gustavo Santaolalla, don't know how to pronounce that, but he said the title is planned to launch exclusively for PS4 in 2019. Now, listening to this, it sounds promising with the release window of this year. But what is The Last of Us Part 2 about? Now, the story of this game is filled with anger and hate. And if you finish The Last of Us or the remastered version on the PS4, you would know that Joel finished off with a lie, as you see here.
No matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear right now.
Swear to me. Swear to me that everything that you've said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
Now, the tale of The Last of Us Part 2 takes place 5 years after the original left off, with 19-year-old Ellie acting as the game's main character. Joel is also making a return, and he's watching over Ellie as a slowly aging old man. But the main drive of the narrative is unclear, but we know Ellie is very, very angry about something, which I'm pretty sure is the Fireflies. But in the reveal trailer, she is seen playing a guitar and covered in blood amongst piles of corpses. And after finishing her song, she says to Joel, I'll just play this clip here and you guys can see.
I'm gonna find. And I'm gonna kill every last one of them.
As you can tell, it shows the clear anger that will act as a core theme in The Last of Us Part 2. And Neil Druckmann, the director of the previous game and this game, has confirmed that Shannon Woodward from Westworld will be playing a role in the sequel, although right now we know nothing about her character. So the developers of The Last of Us Part 2 are Naughty Dog once again. They made Uncharted, Crash Bandicoot, and Jak and Daxter, if you didn't know them. But The Last of Us Part 2 had some more anticipated gameplay at E3 2018, which Sony gave us an all-new lengthy trailer, which was half cinematic and had a stealth gameplay segment. And from the looks of things, The Last of Us Part 2 will be every bit as horrifying and exciting as the previous trailers have suggested. But moving into combat, Ellie's bow and arrow quickly made an appearance before she was forced into a particularly brutal piece of melee combat. And it looks like the game will transition pretty regularly between action and stealth, as you desperately try and even the odds against your more equipped enemies. But now I'll move on. What do I want to see? What does the community want to see in this new game? So far there's only been 2 cinematic trailers and then the gameplay segment released, but what we'd like to see would probably be more terrifying enemies.
Okay.
The infected we faced in The Last of Us were unsettling to say the least, but they never really truly terrified us, Although the clickers and bloaters were really horrifying in the spores under buildings, which had been untouched for years. Well, it's pretty scary, but unless you're playing on Grounded with no way to defend ourselves, the Naughty Dog should be able to introduce some new stuff. The infected should be bigger, more challenging, and sometimes the best tactic just might even be just to avoid them altogether. But it would also be cool to see The Last of Us Part 2 introduce some animals affected by the fungus as new enemy types like dogs, that kind of stuff, And another cool thing would be dialogue choices. Uncharted 4 saw the introduction of a brief yet intriguing dialogue choice for us to make.
Okay, a few years back I got
and it provided a small sense of variety to an otherwise linear narrative. And it gave Nathan Drake his one-liner personality an additional layer of substance. And having the ability to respond to various dialogue choices as you explore The Last of Us Part 2 would be fantastic. And when we consider the mature themes that this franchise has been willing to tackle, this could be moments of comedic brilliance and sudden heartbreak, and emphasised by our personal involvement in each decision. It'd also be nice to see these things have an impact in the plot, some maybe just in brief moments, or major narrative deviation. But it's kind of what we've seen in the post-apocalyptic worlds, Telltale's The Walking Dead, being forced to choose who we can save in The Last of Us Part 2 could be equally heart-wrenching and extremely hard to choose. Imagine having to choose between Joel or a new character we fall in love with, And if you've ever seen The Walking Dead, you'll know the real enemy isn't the undead, but those who are still amongst the living. And the corruption people face in the clutches of a broken world is horrifying, making for far worse than monsters and all the virus to contend with. And while we saw small glimpse in the first game with random thugs, cannibals and fireflies, all of which posed a threat and that kept us guessing with each passing minute. The Last of Us Part 2 should go all in on this. They should paint a powerful antagonist in a world already filled with disgusting examples of humanity, And Joel was capable of some horrendous acts in the closing moments of his journey, and he did what he believed was right in a world simply not worth saving. But To surprise many, The Last of Us multiplayer was actually excellent. I didn't play a heap of it, but when I did play it, the crafting and survival mechanics of its single player brought into the online battles, it's amazing. You could collect ingredients and craft tools mid-match, getting the drop on your enemy through a range of brutal methods, and the variety of tools was backed up by a weighty selection of matchmaking options too. And one of my favourite aspects of the multiplayer was that you get to play in maps from like the main game. It's pretty cool. And The Last of Us Part 2 should double down on this idea and make each battle something different, and not only like a level-based thing, but a will to survive. And this game seems like a heap of new stuff could be introduced. But even if it does stick to its roots, it could definitely be a 10 out of 10, which couldn't be said better by IGN.
The Last of Us Remastered on PlayStation 4 is, like the PlayStation 3 original, a masterpiece. Naughty Dog put game developers everywhere on notice with what it accomplished with The Last of Us, and playing it again is a good reminder of that even a year or so after it originally came out. Whether you experienced it already on PlayStation 3 or have never played it at all, The Last of Us Remastered is very much worth your time, money, and admiration. For more about the story, the world, the characters, and the brutal stealth action gameplay that make The Last of Us the best PlayStation game I've ever played, make sure to check out my original review on IGN, plus our extensive guides and wikis.
Look how dark it is. Can't be any worse out there. Can it?